I guess I wanted to talk to a bunch of queer people about like what their experience was like. Something I'm as a queer kid just thinking about all the time and continually like wondering what other people's process is.
That I'm from the SF Bay Area. I'm really lucky to have grown up with super gay friendly parents. I grew up in Christianity. I'm actually a pastor's kid, which is really weird. I grew up with like queer and gay youth ministers and stuff.
Exploring early on in age in the art, when you have all these beautiful colors and sparkles, it can just make you feel so gorgeous.
Kind of like knew, but like would never say anything, and like I could always like hear whispers in between like my family and stuff like growing up, which kind of like sucked.
I'm literally like 2 years old and I'm like, they knew then.
Not paying attention to like, oh, what is supposed to like be the standard.
I'm of the legal age to do it right now, but you know, you have to have like consent from family, and I don't have that.
But gender stuff is a little more complicated.
Come out and like be open until college.
And the flexibility of it, the fluidity
really
of
pretty
it.
women in this like play I was in. I was like, they're so pretty.
Years ago, actually, my 3-year anniversary is next week.
That I didn't think that like realistic for me to exist in a queer body.
I'm Jonathan, I'm 27, I'm a Cancer, and I am Puerto Rican and Mexican.
I'm Giovanna, I'm 22, I am a Sagittarius, and I am from North Central Florida.
I'm Josephine Chang, I'm 25 years old, I am an Aries, and I am from Taiwan.
Hi, my name is Kashifa Khan. I go by Kasha. I am Bangladeshi Muslim. I am a Sufi, a mystical sector of Islam. I'm a native New Yorker. I'm from Astoria, Queens.
My name is Flo. I'm 26. I'm a Sag Sun, double Taurus. My mother tongue is English, but I also speak Spanish. I'm from the Bronx.
Super gay. Powerful and gay, I like it.
Day to day looks like
I work as an actor in New York, so my day-to-day is always changing.
I am a studio manager and second assistant to a fashion stylist, fashion merchandising.
For work, I do art advocacy.
I am a designer and artist.
I own my own business. I own Avenues Cafe in Philadelphia. It is a BIPOC-owned cafe focused on the community. So we host events, parties, and amazing coffee and pastries.
When I'm not doing my regular day job,
most of the time I'll be doing like a reading, or I'll be making some kind of medicine for myself or someone else.
I try to make time to write. Sometimes I'll take a nice little bubble bath. Sometimes I'll sit and I'll talk to the moon.
I moved here from Cleveland, Ohio on a whim. I'm not gonna lie, I ended up getting like a job offer. I wasn't happy in Cleveland anymore, and in Lorain, Ohio, that's where I live. It's going good.
A lot of my work focuses on menstruation taboo and the fluctuating body, how to use art and design and feminism for accessibility versus the stagnant 9-to-5, 24-hour body energy that we are expected to have.
I work 7 days a week, travel a lot, I've listened to a lot of podcasts, new music, albums that I fell in love with years ago. I find myself on a phone call with someone I'm trying to partner with or something. So it's out of music and phone calls.
Okay, so for this next part, I'm gonna have you draw a self-portrait. I'm gonna have you draw a full-body self-portrait of yourself.
Okay.
Cool. Does that sound alright?
Yeah, I'm not the best drawer, but yes.
Cool, perfect.
No way. I literally just did some yesterday while I was tripping balls.
Okay, now in this chair. Okay.
Oh, right. The question was about queer identity. The first time I fell in love, I definitely didn't know myself as deeply as I know myself now, but I also wasn't out, and it was very cishet and very
feels like it was another lifetime ago. Growing up in the South, there were a lot of putting you into boxes. So there was a lot of chameleoning that happened. Coming out is such a continual process. I actually came out to my family once I moved to New York. All it took was a couple months, not even a full summer, and I called my mom on the phone, yeah. And then after that, it was like, we're just gonna start there. Just to clear the air. I am pansexual and non-binary.
I remember something so funny is like, because I grew up really conservative, I was always told, you know, same-sex relationships are not right. And when I first started dating this person, I was like, it's so easy and it's so amazing that it can't be right. Which, like, what kind of thinking is that? I was literally like, two people of the same gender in a relationship, too easy, too beautiful. You get to share everything. God can't love that. What?
Definitely when I was younger, walking down like the underwear aisles and just kind of seeing like the male models on the packages, not gonna lie. Overall, I don't know, just like living in Cleveland, being young, I was never really out, never really open. Queerness in my family was just kind of shunned upon, and just being an adult now, it's time. It's time to be my most authentic self, and I'm doing it.
So like in high school, I think I told my mom that I was like queer, and she was like, yeah? You know I want grandchildren and I was like, bro.
I really didn't get time to experience to like, you know, high school and then give it a name right at the end of high school when I was about to go to college. So that was like the beginning parts of my journey. And being queer, the first thing you'd go is like, what type of queer am I? Am I gay? Am I a lesbian? Am I pan? You know. So I set it on bi for a bit, then I set it on gay for a bit, and now I feel like I've fully blossomed to queer.
Kristen Stewart from Panic Room.
But this one kid, play auditions in high school, I just,
If that's a boy or a girl, I think they're cute though, and they're pale and they're dying, and it's like totally my type.
This amazing Taurus person. He was so sweet. He was just like really attentive. It just felt automatic. I was a fucking mess over the whole situation. I was so heartbroken. I was so sad. I was talking to the spirits about him, like, why doesn't he love me? And they were like, bitch, if you don't stop crying, like, please get it together. And so yeah, that was my first love. And he was also the first person to make me. That might have been why I was like a little bit crazy. Like that might have just a little.
I grew up in a very conservative environment. And so although I clocked my interest in girls early on, I don't think I ever put a name to it because it was too scary to do that. The first time I had a romantic, or like an explicitly romantic relationship, was with my first girlfriend. And even then we dated for 2 years without telling anyone. We literally lied to all of our friends, even though they were all queer and would have been like so loving about it. And over time, I've been able to grow out of that and come into my own queerness with, you know, the love and support of everyone around me. And now I feel like my queerness is at the center of my identity. But with that, I think it's still very rooted in this, like, I understand how far I've had to come to get here. And so my queer identity holds a lot of, I think, the, like, pain and the strength that it took to get here.
So this segment is about your love life. Tell me.
That's a messy question. I fell in love with this guy from a summer camp. We were friends for a while, then we were frenemies for a while, and then we became lovers. And I remember like thinking, oh my gosh, I have never felt like this for a person before.
It felt so radical to be in that, especially at an age where like you're just learning, I guess, about yourself in such a shallow way, and like the male gaze, and like wanting to be like hot even though you're an awkward 12, 13-year-old, and like figuring out what is hot to you or what makes an outfit great, and like dressing up for other girls and not really dressing up for the validation of like guys. It was really, really interesting. So it's kind of been an evolution of that since.
I feel like when you're young and experiencing these feelings for the first time, it brings up a lot of feelings of like obsession or insecurity. I feel like you're also really wrestling with your sense of self and what that looks like, especially I feel like in like
femme relationships to have that be shared with someone who's like so similar to you.
The ways that we change over time, like, you realize the patterns that come up in relationships and the ways that it brings out the shadow sides of yourself or the parts that you're maybe not taking as well of care of. And something I've realized recently is that a lot of my relationships have sometimes come at a detriment to friendships that I care about. And that wasn't something that I was doing intentionally. And my heart is telling me one thing, but my partner's telling me another. I've also dated another Sagittarius, and we both ghosted each other, so I think that says a lot about our energy.
A long distance relationship, so like where we saw each other infrequent, and when we did see each other it felt like a vacation more than a like couple building.
When no one else knew, that was really hard because I feel like even beyond it being a battle with the people around me, which I don't think it ever really was, you know, they were always, at least the people in college were ready to accept me. I don't know about the people at home, but it felt like it was first and foremost like a battle with myself. And because of that, I feel like I had to feel really far from the people in my life and from the people that would become my chosen family.
There's always pushback around my queer existence. I grew up in a sort of like tradition, and so marriage is very transactional culturally as a Muslim and as a South Asian person. That it is really just like a transaction to either increase your quality of life, level of class somehow, or like your social economic status. And so to love someone and to choose someone specifically for the sake of love and pleasure and happiness, and to have sex and intimacy with someone where the reason isn't procreation, it's like also because of pleasure and healing and bonding. So I think that in a capitalistic society, we really push against pleasure. If it doesn't feel productive, if the sex isn't productive, literally, then why would we be doing it? Love is a duty, but it's different.
Times where my queerness has felt like low vibration has been focused around religion and my Christianity. I feel there's a lot of people in that space who have negative things to say about queer people who also want to love God and follow that belief. I've been in settings where like the pastor has literally been talking about how queer people are going to go to hell and that like same sex you will be in hell. And as a same sex person and a queer person, I was like, I don't believe it because I know my relationship with the Lord, but it definitely makes you feel like the eyes are looking at you, minds are thinking.
I mean, I've been bullied, honestly, being gay. In like high school, middle school, just being called a lot of slurs. I had Facebook, you know, I posted a picture. A lot of guys were just like commenting. I really don't have a relationship with my father like that. And he, I guess, like found out. At the same time, my mom was like asking me, you know, what's going on? Are you gay? And I'm like, no, I don't know, you know. And I don't know. He ended up like messaging me on Facebook and left me like a huge crazy message saying, you know, using the word faggot and, you know, you're a disgrace. And so I think that's the prominent time where like being queer kind of like hit me in the face. I kind of just went into like a little mode and deleted all social media.
I remember I would be sitting at dinner with my girlfriend and I would just look at her and feel like so sad because we were maybe out on a date or something, but in the back of my mind I was just like, this can never be real and I'll never be able. It felt like I was like playmaking instead of living in real life.
Yeah, my most recent relationship in New York, though, affirmed parts of me that no one else has, but it also exposed me to forms of narcissism and abuse that I've never experienced before. And I am currently in the rebuilding process. You never really think that something like that is going to happen to you until it does. And then there's a lot of shame and guilt and negative emotions that come into play when you are being abused. And I know they cared about me in other ways, but not in ways that were always healthy or loving in the way that I needed. And I think that that comes into what I was saying about boundaries earlier, that when we are learning to enforce boundaries towards people who we love but who don't love us back in the way that we need is one of the most difficult things.
I think the thing about like mental illness is that it can kind of make you feel like there's too much work in like being loved, or like there's too much to explain, or more than another person would be willing to know. And I think I really had to work around that, because I've loved all kinds of people. You know, there's so many different kinds of people in my life, and a lot of them are actually like mentally ill as well. And I think because I have OCD and I also have like anxiety, there are literal mechanisms in my brain that want to burn shit down. And so really reminding myself that it's okay to verbalize those things and to not push people away when they try to be present for me. Being comfortable with letting people know that I'm trying.
I feel like in queer bodies and femme bodies, especially, we are not really given space to chat about the things that make us feel put together or excited, or excited about life, really, honestly. There's so many different ways that sensuality takes forms.
The definition of sensuality to me is just being present in your body and enjoying all the things that your body does and acknowledging it.
It's like that personal connection, either like personal memory or personal touch, physical or mental touch. Really encompasses that like heart-warming, body-tingling sensation.
Sensuality means like leaning towards that feel-good energy, and what does evoke those like euphoric feelings in you, what makes you feel safe and held, and what promotes a sense of togetherness with other people and also wholeness within yourself. You learn and you make mistakes and you learn trust.
It's like sensuality. If I'm feeling confident, I'm feeling good, that's what sensuality is. It taps into like your senses, what you're feeling, tasting, seeing, smelling, and you sometimes have to just like take a moment and savor that.
It might sound silly, but making sure that you're budgeting or list taking or forming in the cushy parts of your schedule in your routine that make you feel like you have the means to do what you need to take care of yourself. I feel like that's a big part of sensuality to me. Feeling soft or feeling like you have warm clothes. Making sure that I feel like my skin can be moisturized. Like coming to the north, that's a huge part. Coming to a queer healthcare facility here for the first time. Like enrolling in services at Cal and Lord and being able to speak to a gender-affirming doctor made a world of a difference to me. To be able to go to a gynecologist who didn't force me to take an exam, who explained to me that like vaginismus is a real thing. Things like that. You know, being able to talk openly with professionals who don't try to tell you that your lifestyle or your being is incorrect. That's a big way of getting care for yourself in order to feel more sensual and feel more in tune with yourself.
I think the first place my sensuality shows up in my day is when I get dressed. I think about what kind of energy I want to be putting out there. I think oftentimes that has to do with my feelings of gender, or around gender that day. So if I want to be more femme presenting or more mask, and what does that look like with how in touch I'm feeling with my sexual energy that day. Also, when I'm like headed somewhere and I feel like I have a lot of agency over my life and I'm like headed where I want to go. And I love, honestly, I love when people in the streets turn to check out my outfit, me. They like what I'm putting down. My favorite kind of day is any day where I kind of have it open, like an open afternoon. And my favorite thing to do is to just go to a coffee shop and sit there for forever. And I love to put on a fit that makes me feel good. And I typically want to go to like a coffee shop where I know there will be a lot of queer people. I just love to see what other queer people are up to. You know, we're not working 9 to 5s. What are we doing? We're out on the streets all day reading our little books. Or all reading the same books too at the same time. Why? I feel so in community when I go to a coffee shop and all the queers are reading detransition baby.
I think that's such a big part of queerness too, is like that presentation aspect and how people put so many labels and things on you based on what they see, but at a certain point, like, fuck it, it doesn't matter. You are going to wear and do what feels good to you. And so I really try to share that through my work, as I work with people to make custom messaging in different art pieces so that they can wear their heart on their sleeve and they can wear what matters to them. And when someone sees them, they're going to know what this person cares about, or what that energy is going to be like when you put it on, and feeling that from other people. Or when I give an art piece or something custom that I made for someone, and feeling the joy that they exude, or the squeal or the exclaim, or whatever they share with me physically embodied when I see what my work means to them and how they're excited to wear it, because it'll help them be able to not only like empower themselves but share a message with folks around them.
Making things. When I make something, that's when I feel, because like it's either making something for myself or for, you know, just to like put it out there. That's when I feel most empowered. Like, I don't know, my art sometimes is very like sensual in how I'm feeling it, and lately it's been sexual. With like the clothing that I'm making, I'm like, oh, almost like skirt to like cut away like pants and bottoms, and they show, you know, they're a little revealing, they're a little sheer, a little, you know, that, I don't know, that's where the combination of like that for me has been at lately. It's just like, I feel really good making something and then like seeing it on someone else when it looks good.
I feel like my queerness and my sensuality come together a lot when I'm very comfortable, when I'm around other queer BIPOC folk, and when I'm writing for sure, because when I'm writing, I'm able to create my own worlds. I'm able to create worlds that center people that are like me. I'm able to immerse people in a world of their senses. And yeah, I just really try to engage everything I'm around. I'm a big believer in animism. So everything is alive. Everything is alive. So, you know, when I'm showering, talking to the water, asking the water to cleanse me, thanking the air for blowing on me, especially if there's something that's bothering me. When I'm eating, you know, saying prayers, thinking of the people who grew my food, being in relationship with things and people around me. I think also sensuality comes up when I'm around people and I'm having a really good time and I say things like, I'm having a great time, or I love you, and then I can feel that connection with that person. That's like one of my favorite forms of sensuality, is feeling other people's senses too and not being overwhelmed by them. I think also boundaries are a really good form of sensuality too, because it's like, instead of feeling things I don't want to feel, I can say a couple of words and like that, I don't have to feel that thing anymore, or I create a wall. That's a beautiful form of sensuality. It's power too.
When I get to have like intimate time with like a close group of friends and like they're all queer, my ability to not feel afraid to wear a woman's top as a man's bottom, or vice versa, or, you know, heels, and I'm like just feeling myself, makes me feel powerful. I don't think there's been many times where I'm like, you know, I really want to wear that shirt, but I know it's a girl shirt and people are going to say something. Like, that's not how I feel. Like, I'm like, oh, I like that. It's a woman's shirt. That's hot.
I think that's also the beauty of queerness, is that there's so many different ways to exist, and so many different labels that we have, but obviously it escapes the confines of that and is truly boundless.
My favorite thing to paint is women and figures and faces. To be honest, and not to say that like cis men aren't beautiful or whatever, yeah, it's just not found in my work. It's not really relatable to me, but yeah, a lot of queerness in my work and what I read, the media that I take in, the conversations that I want to have. I also think that a lot of people don't talk about sex as much as they want to, and like, because we're literally fighting for our ability to fuck who we want, like, something about that creates space for other people to talk about fucking how they want to fuck. That is sensual and queer.
To be a queer, sensual person in the 21st century, I think is lit, honestly.
Being a queer and sensual person in the 21st century, to me, means having the ability to do what others perhaps haven't done before. Being able to take on new forms of loving, being able to learn about different forms of intimacy and touching and loving and caring, whether that's platonic or romantic, just being able to push past these barriers. I mean, I'm gonna keep referencing my home community. Like, I come from a place where simply put, you can't exist, you know, out and complete, and how you are without feeling that nervousness of facing ridicule or having that hypervigilance of always being concerned of, will someone act out in a way that might be harmful or dangerous to you? And I know that that fear exists everywhere, but especially in this city. You know, when I moved here the first summer of 2020, and I saw people, you know, holding hands, kissing in public, showing this affection, and no one batting an eye or turning with a weird stare, and people just being in acceptance, I think was really beautiful and eye-opening for me. So it's the 21st century, such a wild time, and now we're seeing the changes of all of this rapid internet access. Even just having these devices and having these apps and being able to connect and see that someone across the world or someone in my community has felt this way. I think being queer and sensual in this time means deconstructing the ideas of what we know as to keep each other safe or to exist in this world, especially living in this city that has some of the most welfare in the country but still has so many disparities. You really see what are the spaces and gaps where there's so much lacking and so much extra care and help that we need to serve each other. And so I think a lot of being queer and trying to lean more towards orienting around pleasure means asking, how can we get this for everyone? How can we expand access and have people orienting themselves towards things that do bring them fulfillment and enrichment and this joy? And so that comes with changing the ways that we operate, changing the ways by which our internal and personal relationships are, and seeing that multiply and ripple outwards. All the things that need to change with the quickness, and we don't have time to wait. I think a huge part of that sensuality is recognizing the urgent need for change, but actually building in that sustainable care of making sure that we've got each other and we're holding each other through these really rocky waters.
Being a queer, sensual being in this day and age has so many privileges that come with it, thanks to the people who've come before us. I love being able to go out, party. Like, that's such a privilege that we all just get to gather with other beautiful queer people and have fun. Even being able to have dating apps and having vibrant communities. We've come such a long way in such a short time. But also people needing to hide who they are, the state literally not allowing us to exist, to show your sensuality in spaces, how clear and obvious it gets to show up in that space, and then like you're not sure how it's received. We always joke about like, oh, is this a friend thing? Like, is this a romantic thing? Or you could be questioning in your head like, did I do something to make someone uncomfortable? Or even just like, did that completely fly over the person's head? And that's something that comes with, I think, not having a very long blueprint of what queer relationships look like.
The agency to be very creative, to think outside of the box, to move in innovation, and to architect new realities. I think for me, being queer and sensual in the 21st century is very much like creating pathways out of disaster. I think also we are kind of rediscovering a lot of tools that will help us do that kind of work. So it's pretty lit, you know, there's a lot of feeling involved, there's a lot of intense feeling, a lot of sadness, a lot of isolation as well, a lot of things that maybe straight cis people wouldn't understand, but I think at the same time it's very lit and I do not take it for granted. So I'm grateful to be gay.
Telling my story for the first time and making room for other people to explore and tell their story. I think a lot of people think that the queer story has been told, but I think we've gotten like a very white and privileged version of that story. Thinking about the intersection of our identities is really important. So I'm not just queer, I'm also Muslim, I'm also Bangladeshi, I'm also part of a large community that my parents have provided for me that offer me safety and resources. It means a lot to me. So walking that careful balance of my intersected identities is a story that I didn't really hear growing up, and I think more and more people need to. So yeah, that's what it is to be a queer girl of the 21st century.
It's hard to imagine for the next generation.
Shout out Gen Z, because they gay as fuck. They're like, we're gonna do what we want to do with the world, honey. Sorry. But don't be sorry. Do what you gotta do. And I feel like, I don't even know if I'm a Gen Z at this point. I'm 96. Are we millennials or whatever the fuck? I don't know. But shout out them. I love that. And if I'm not Gen Z, then I'm a proud auntie.
Gen Z even feels so much more liberated than we are. I really love how far I've had to come to embrace my own identity, because it just makes me hold my queerness like so much more preciously. And that work has like pushed me so far in learning how to reimagine my life outside of how I've been brought up and what I've been told like a proper life looks like. And so the like complete crumbling of what I learned when I was younger and the complete having to rebuild that, I feel like makes me who I am today and freed me of so many things. So maybe I want the next generation to remember that there's still work to be done, to be able to live freely and wholly as ourselves, and to not hate that work.
What I really hope this conversation can do for this community in the next is to spark conversations about what queerness means. I would really like more folks who are like maybe cis or straight to learn more about queerness, to learn more about what queerness might mean for them. And even if it's not queerness, what expansiveness means for them, right? What it means to think outside of the box, what it means to think outside of the parameters of like colonization, of like, you know, what we're kind of geared to like, to learn more about like what our ancestors were doing. I feel like in a lot of ways, when we go back to our ancestral medicines, we move into like alignment with what works for us.
Where I hope it goes in the future is that it will make more foundational relationships for queer people. I would love to see more queer families being built in the future.
Just do you. Don't be scared to express yourself, to live your life. Don't, like, no one cares at the end of the day. Be you.
To listen to the earth, to listen to each other, to listen to ourselves deeper, to spend more time interpreting your dreams, to spend more time really asking yourself who you are and if that's something you like. I really feel like it's a beautiful thing because queerness is going to save the world. I feel like the queers are the sensitive kids who are able to have empathy for what different realities can look like, have empathy for people that that usually don't have a voice, that are usually marginalized. You know, when we see people who are activists, who are healers, who are really just trying to shift things, they're usually fucking queer, you know, and let's be very clear, are usually trans black women in general. So I think queerness and blackness as well is very much inherently linked to the earth. We always have our ears to the earth. Community is how that happens.
Show yourself a lot of grace. You're very loved. You're being held by the universe. And you're gonna grow up to be really fucking gay, just like you fucking thought. You're gonna be just as creative, if not more. There's gonna be more love in your life than you could have ever imagined. And the universe is like really proud of you. It's like constantly smiling. Like, it's lovely. It's a really, really great life, and you're so lucky. And can't wait to do it again.